But our panel today is structured around how young people are taking agency and making change happen on the ground. What is common among all of them is all of them were participants at the Global Youth Climate Summit, which we organized in April in Belo Horizonte at the Federal University of Minas Gerais. All four of them were delegates. He was a speaker, and then we have another couple of other delegates, and Afra was also a speaker at the summit that we had in Belo Horizonte. So I will first invite each of you to quickly introduce yourselves. Tell us a bit about the work that you are doing and how it connects with SDGs. Holly is from USA. She was instrumental in developing the Belo Horizonte Youth Climate Declaration. So Holly, my first question to you will be on the Youth Declaration that was produced. How did young people actually develop it, and what was the outcome? And before you speak, let me also just quickly introduce our panelists. We have Jimena, a very young professor, faculty, probably the youngest faculty that I have met. She's just 21, from Mexico. We have Elisa from Brazil, working on food security. She was at the summit as well. We have Shohan, who is a very well-known figure in Global South, fighting for climate justice, from Bangladesh. And Andresa, she has most incredibly, between the summit we had in Brazil, she was the climate champion of GYLC. Between April and November, has written a book for children on climate action and has launched it at COP30. So we'll hear more about that from Andresa. So Holly, let me start with you. Tell us about the Belo Horizonte Youth Declaration and what were some of the outcomes of the declaration?
Hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. So, at the Global Youth Leadership Summit, we wanted to find a way to codify youth priorities and really shape policy outcomes. So what we did before we met in Belo Horizonte in April is we sent out a survey to 500 of the delegates. 200 were going to be in person, and we also had 300 virtual attendees. And we surveyed what are their priorities and what they really want to focus on at the summit to make a priority, so we could tailor the trainings for the work that they're doing already. And so at the summit, we hosted a 2-hour policy negotiation training that covered the basics of COP. We talked about the technical policy mechanisms and how we can effectively advocate not only at COP, but also in our local communities leading up to that. So Ijaj offered us a platform and connected us to the University of Minas Gerais, and we have a partnership with Professor Giraldo, who is the head of the Knowledge Center for Biodiversity, and he took this declaration that we were able to create and was able to spread it to experts in Brazil to use as input. In addition to that, we also presented the declaration to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change of Brazil, Marina Silva. And this was a very powerful experience because we came together all in person, and not only did we train with one another and learn the same skills, but we also did live breakout sessions in 6 different priorities, ranging from sustainable livelihood to climate finance. And then we came together at the end of the session in a planetary, and each of the breakouts were able to share back their top 5 priorities, and we explicitly trained them how to write it in a policy-oriented and actionable way. And we came together with different stakeholders from academia, the Brazilian government, and then the youth declaration to really champion that and make sure we have continuity from the April summit to now.
Thank you. Holly, maybe this is a good time to have a short video on what was the process that will give the audience a good sense of what happened. And then you give it around my.
May we young people all over the world continue building a future, postpone the end of the world, and dream.
Young people today are not just witnesses to the climate crisis, we are its inheritors. And we refuse to inherit a planet that's destroyed.
When you're talking about climate, when you're talking about energy transition, and when we're talking about yourselves, but you do have to believe that you can change lives, change organizations, change the world.
Work together, to cooperate together, to think together about what we are doing today so that we are going to have a future.
The future is green. We are ready to keep going greener and greener because that's the way of doing it.
We're collectively working on a goal that we all are passionate about. I'm here to take action, and that's what I invite you to do.
The climate crisis really requires coordinated action across all sectors of society.
It's important to understand that young persons, they have power in their actions. We bring perspectives that other persons don't have because we are not yet conformed to the system. And so when you're thinking about what can I bring to the table as a young person, understand that you have power.
No blue, no green. No water, no life.
The future is now. You have to get yourself involved. You just have to take action.
The collective agenda of this room is to make progress towards a sustainable, livable planet.
Wanted to explore this issue through the lens of South America and explore what youth here are saying and thinking about climate change.
It's pretty much a commitment that I have towards my future because the future is all of us and the future is now.
Imagine you're walking in a square or something, you're seeing beautiful butterflies and pollinators pollinating the plants we have. That's something we should spread throughout the planet and bring it much closer.
Eu não poderia deixar de reforçar o meu apoio à presença e à voz da ativista indígena Rayane Chipaia, que está aqui.
E ali foi decidido que nós não deveríamos ultrapassar os 5 de temperatura da Terra. Ali foi decidido que nós deveríamos viabilizar os meios de implementação.
The Belo Horizonte Youth Climate Declaration is a global call to action from young leaders, rooted in the urgent themes of education, biodiversity, and a just transition. We demand transformative, inclusive, and accountable climate action.
It is clear that young people are not just the future, they are the present and must bravely take on their roles as leaders and protagonists in their communities. They are the key to implementing policies and private initiatives that combat the effects of climate change and promote sustainable development, ensuring environmental protection.
Thank you. So, coming from a global summit, a global convening, Jimena, my question to you is, while you introduce your work, is what does it mean for the local implementation at your level? Because I know as an educator, you're working on disseminating climate education to young people. What does it look like, and what are some of the outcomes you're achieving on the ground?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you to the Global Youth Climate Summit team, Holly. Well, to respond to the question, it's important to emphasize that I am somewhat a unique case as I come from a rural community that now is urbanized. And consider one of the most dangerous places in Mexico, actually. So that difficults the incidents. Initially, it was only the destruction of the ecosystem, but in recent years, marginalization and inequality have increased. Uh, Now I study and I'm professor in the National Autonomous University of Mexico, which is one of the best public schools in Mexico. Uh, and I have seen the methods used by some of my professors. I have the privilege to study with anthropologists, sociologists, so that spans like my work. And since most of the students are from other states of the Republic and come from the communities, climate resilience methods already exist. It's not a new thing, and young women are already like involved into these approaches, such as ecofeminism projects. And an effective method for me is an education, not only for rural communities and public education. That's important. And not only for the rural communities, but also for the large cities, because the stigmas that only reproduce these inequalities and give that the rural pollution in Mexico sustains food security and women sustain the care system is the most important part for me as a professor, because even our generation is the most involved in these climate topics. It's not enough. It's not enough, and uh, uh, we need to improve our communication as well with the infants, and with with the children. So that's my point of view of that question. Thank you.
We have follow-up questions. We will also take questions and comments from the audience. But let me first finish the first round of introductory remarks from each of the speakers. Elisa, so your work is also focusing on food security. How are you engaging young people and engaging with policymakers to drive change? If you could share some of your learnings from the ground. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, I'm a member of the Santos City Hall. Santos is a city here in Brazil, in the coastal area of São Paulo State. And there, one of the projects that I work with is related to two main themes, food security and waste management. So Santos is one of the 60 cities in Brazil with more cases of food insecurity. So we needed to do something. And at the same way, we see a huge quantity of food being trashed out in street markets. And this is quite common here in Brazil. And I think it's a problem worldwide as well. And so the project called Feira Feliz, which means Happy Street Market, translating literally, it's actually to build a bridge between these two different points. So it's to collect this food, and I'm saying like about the leaves of broccoli or carrots or banana out of the bunch. So this is still food, but as a consumer, we don't see it like this anymore. And because of this food is being trashing out and stopping in the landfill. So the project is redesign this, collect and separate it in three different fractions. So to the return to the human consumption, that is the first fraction through some benefits institutions. The second one goes to animal feed, and the third one is composting. So when we are composting, we are producing bioproducts, and these products can return to the productive scale. So we are redesign something that used to be like a linear process to a circular one. So all of this project has a lot of partnership between, and it's a good way like to have empowerment and young people into all of this process, and was developed with youth mind as well, minds. And well, that's it. It's like social technology as well, which means it's cheaper to implement. It's impactful, so it real can change people's life, because we are saying about hungry, and no one fights for a better world with hungry. And the third thing is that it can be replicated. So this is the point that I want to show you this project as well, because it can be adapted for different territories. So feel free to implement something similar to your own territory as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will come back to that because food security is not just a problem in Brazil, it's a challenge in countries in Asia, in Bangladesh, in countries in Africa. And what we want to learn from you later on is what can young people do in other countries in Global South to work on improving food security in their communities. So we will come back to you on that. My next speaker, Shohan, he has been a regular at COPs for the last five or six COP events. He's a youth negotiation observer from Bangladesh. And my question to you is, often when at events like the COP, we are talking about climate justice, it's Global South young people asking for compensation or support from developed countries of the world for historical emissions. And a lot of it is about young people asking for support from others. But Shohan, what I'm interested in learning from you is, as someone who's working with rural communities in Bangladesh, what kind of innovation are you seeing in your communities that can be replicated and that show agency of young people, that young people are not expecting others to solve their problems, but young people are innovating. So can you share some examples from your work in the community?
Thank you, Ejaz bhai. Yes, it's my fifth COPs and started with Glasgow in COP26 and third times with the government party delegation and this year more focusing on the negotiation. And my role is to amplifying the grassroots voice in the decision-making process and building trust through the diplomacy, bilaterals meeting with the different party head and the governments. And you rightly mentioned we are asking, and justice is not charity. And we are not asking charity or support. Now we change our narrative, we change our language. That's the justice, that's our right. And that's why we are asking our rightful demand, but also we are not waiting for the global inaction. And global inaction also costing our lives, our livelihoods. Our peoples are losing their homes and they are migrating to Dhaka and the other area. So I want to share two examples. One example is, you rightly mentioned right now about the food security, but I want to more focus on food and nutritional security. But we need not only food, we need the nutritious food. I also work with the Global Sun movement, and as a national youth coordinator, I work with the grassroots young leader to hear the most marginalized people, like the fisher folk communities, tiger widows, sanitation worker, and what they are facing and what solution they are creating. And we found many solutions. I want to share a little bit about the Morelganj, one of the local community in Bagerhat district of Bangladesh. It's the most affected and also hit by different cyclone and most affected by the salinity. So water, we know in SDG goal 6, 1 glass of water, but for that community to collect water, they run to 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers. So all water are saline. So we import young people on there to support by British Council to building youth agency on that ground, and we give some small grants. And through those grants, young people develop their local own solution. One was agroecology. So agroecology is solution for the mitigation, agroecology is solution for the adaptation, and they are the the resilience. So that I found, and I joined this year is a Nutrition Growth Summit in Paris, and they sent me their project that the agroecology is growing on. So that's the things, not joining, and I am the fellow of Professor Salimul Haq, and Salimul Haq guided me, late Professor Salimul Haq guided me, Sohan, advocacy is not enough. Do something for the most affected people who right now need support, most need support, like 1 glass of water or 1 pitcher of water or something. So that we are doing. So climate justice is not slogan or making a space in COP, also how we can support with our assistance. So I am concluding with another example and concluding my speech. So in my local community in Jalokati, and we are not getting enough funding to the grassroots climate educational literacy. And one of my fellow colleagues said, Sohan bhai, please share my story in the COP. And the story was, he tried to make a young generation from school level about the climate oriented. And he started an eco-Olympiad. An eco-Olympiad concept is not only climate, also ecosystem, nature, biodiversity. And he advocated with many agencies, no one responded him, but he started with his pocket money. And pocket money means the tiffin money. And then he convinced the local environment department. And with very limited resources, he covered 10 schools, and then he organized that the Eco-Olympiad. And when he convinced and showed the example, then government stayed up, and now government permitted to set up 10 climate eco club in the school. So it can be small action, but for that community, it is a transformation with how the young people can be oriented to. And for climate change, it's not only knowing the problem. Climate crisis has a lot of consequences. We can discuss here not only 2 weeks, 1 month about different consequences, but we should focus on solution and how we can live with that challenges, how we can solve that challenges. So now Bangladesh and young people more focus on the solution oriented. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very powerful examples from the community. Thank you, Shohan. My next speaker, Andresa. So tell us about your project. First of all, what inspired you to write a book for children and your viewpoints on education? And also, I know you're working in the community and influencing policy as a university student. You also have not graduated. But how is it? How is the experience of working in policy making as a university student? So 2 questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the space, for opening the space for me. It's an honor to be here with you. And it's a pleasure also to meet you. My name is Andressa, and I'm from Southern Brazil. Southern Brazil is a place that constantly is affected by floods. So extremely rain that creates floods and also landslides. And as an urban planning student, I'm passionate about SDG 4, 11, and 13. But way before I know the term climate displaced or climate crisis, at 6 years old, I was impacted for the first time by a flood. And I didn't know what it was passing by. But what I knew is that the murky floods, the murky waters that were entering my house were changing everything. And that's where I knew the term climate injustice. And this experience led me to study architecture and urban planning and also design at college. And right now, answering your question, I am developing a thesis on my undergraduate degree related to urban planning and sustainable development. But what does that mean? It means that I aiming to create more resilient and sustainable cities for not only young people, but for communities that most need it. So the justice in cities that we need to confront climate crisis. And what do I do? Well, I create plans, strategic plans or urban plans that focuses on people that are vulnerable in vulnerable areas. For example, close to mountains that may have landslides, areas that may be flooded in a rain. So that's what I do. And the part of policy making on that is that I show my work to the policymakers of the city and show them and as an activist, I say to them what they should do. And if they listen to me, that's a win. And so I've been doing that 5 years now. And I started my work as a volunteer at 11 years old. So you can imagine that I haven't been doing a lot of things for my community, but I'm not doing things because I feel the need to, I feel the wish to do that. It's the need. Because if I don't do that, the people from my community will suffer the floods again. If I don't do that, my family will not be able to go to have like the medication that my cousin needs to survive. If I do that, if I don't do that, in the next rain, what will happen to my family, to my community, to myself? Where will I be? So that's the main reason that I do that, and that's the main reason that I work as a climate activist, and that I'm always constantly working as with policymakers. And participating in the program early this year in Belo Horizonte was an extremely important opportunity for me, because I was rewarded with the recognition as a climate champion. And with that, I was able to write my own book. And this book talks about two different point of views of children that live with two different climate disasters. And I have this book with me, and I will be happy to show you and also to give to my friends, my colleagues, panelists. So it's really important to talk about climate for children, because, for example, when I was 6 years old, I could not understand what's passing by. But now I can. Now I can understand. And I want that the children, that are more than 2 million children that passed the floods last year, they can understand what's happening with our world, but mostly understand that they can grow with the world. So in Portuguese we say crescer com o mundo. We can grow with the world, and we can learn how to adapt ourselves for the world, because the world cannot adapt for us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. We'll take a photo with your book, I think. Everyone's got one? All right. We can stand and take a photo. Who will take the photo? After that, look at. Wonderful. And you gave a copy of the book to the Secretary General. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. So let's hear some feedback, comments, questions from the audience. And you can ask to any one of our speakers, or you can also share your comment. Afra. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was amazing listening to all of you and hearing from a lot of my friends back from GYCS. Congratulations. So the first thing that I was thinking of when I was hearing from a few of you, like you mentioned about floods, and also how young people are working and changing the narrative in the grassroots level. There were a few instances and stories that came to my mind that I wanted to share to you from Bangladesh's perspective. The city I come from, Chattogram, it has a big issue that comes up is flooding. And the reason behind that is our infrastructure. So the infrastructure is not made in the right way. It's just entire unplanned urbanization. And also we have a lot of plastic waste coming up, right? So what the young people in Chattogram did, we have a large network of young people working in here, right? They did three things. First being they started advocating for waste segregation in household levels. And that is now being adapted in the whole Chattogram by the government, right? And then we were having landslide issues due to flood and such flash floods happening. And they advocated that young people in the communities need to know how to become the first responders. We can't wait for somebody to come and rescue us. We can do it ourselves, right? And they demanded to be trained. And that's how they got trained into becoming actual first-hand responders with certificate and ID cards, right? And same goes for fire response. So these are the things that young people pushed the government, pushed the authorities to give them the capacity to do, right? But now my question to the panelists, anybody who wants to answer can do it. How do you think young people can tackle the short-term grants and finances that are happening, right? So we are seeing a lot of 3-month, 1-year fundings happening on a very unique subject that's very important. But then there is no follow-up happening on that anymore, right? And how can young people tackle that issue, and how can they empower themselves even when there is discontinuation in a lot of different fundings and projects and ideas happening around the places? Thank you so much.
Holly, you have worked on fundraising for non-profits, so maybe you may be the...
Yeah, thank you for your question and sharing those community level interventions and how that can be adopted in the government. Most recently, I worked with the Asia Foundation, who is doing Let's Read program. So we realized that there's a lot of incredible projects. However, people don't know how to access the platforms, or they don't know about you, or they don't know about your organization. And so something that we realized is a gap of funding. Even if something like a really big international organization like the Asia Foundation even struggles with conveying the impact of in educating young people and storybooks and digital learning. And so for me, I think it is learning how to communicate that the impact you're making is not only like carbon and protecting X amount of homes and making the community more resilient in this square kilometer, but also explaining and quantifying the perverse effects that are like spillovers from your guys' advocacy as well. And also, I would honestly say partnering with people who are in the universities to try to make an economic argument on why retrofitting the infrastructure, why investing in young people and the solutions is actually a very effective and cost-efficient mechanism for the government, because you're also empowering young people to be leaders, and that actually is going to encourage young people to also want to stay and not have to be displaced and leave if they can't survive, So it's not only about the metrics, but also making sure your communities are actually staying and not having to migrate for other opportunities or for survival.
Any other comments from the... Yeah.
Something that I was realizing is like, I will saying about a local level, but we can use a tool as like that partnership between public and private sector. So here we said, I think it's the same, but PPP. Yeah, and this is a tool that we as young people can like to know a little bit more how works in different contexts, but take some of this like way for to build and have more like investment as well, like in young people, but to understand what is happening in our own territory and then get it like a tool to build and part of the discussions. And so it's a good way like to get funding when you're saying about mainly with waste management, as you said, like the plastic problem.
Any comments, questions? In that case, just to be respectful of time, I will invite each of our speakers to give your closing remarks. And my question to you is, not every young person has the opportunity to come to COP. So it's very resource intensive, requires a lot of support to come here. But there are millions of young people out there who want to make a difference, who want to exercise their agency. What's your one advice for people in your age group to take climate action? And from GYLC, we hope to compile your responses and disseminate it through our social media channels. So one advice for young people on how they can exercise agency and take climate action.
Yes, so I would say that something that happens to me, and I'll always tell my friends that they should do, is to build local but think global. So build in your own communities, build as small as you can. Small actions can lead to great things in the future. So build it locally but think it globally. One day you will see that all the steps that have been letting you through where you are can make a great difference globally. So build local, think global, and whenever you can, as young people, you should do volunteer work, you should think that you should take action from your community as much as you can. Because when we take care of our communities, of our home country, of ours, we are already making the change in the world.
Yes, and I echo with her. The youth can change the world, change the narrative, even change the country regime. So one thing is, my message is that solution is not here. Solution in the ground. Solution in the last mile, who are in the crisis, and leadership also created by the crisis when we are facing the climate crisis. So climate change is a scientific issue. Climate change is not a non-scientific fiction. So that's why climate science, climate education is a mandatory or important, and it's need continuous learning. And learning is not only theory or concept, also learning by doing, also the lived experience, also the indigenous knowledge, where and young people can play a role as a bridge, like climate science, global discussion, and the local knowledge and the local situation. So that young people can lead. So knowledge leadership is so important. How much your voice is loud is not matter, but how you are stronger with your knowledge, climate knowledge, that can be prove yourself as a climate influencer or the climate leader in everywhere. It's negotiation room or anywhere. So that's my request to everyone who want to join COP or be a climate advocate. Continuous learning, climate science, local realities, and learning by doing. My last message is climate finance is not just for us. So we are talking about just transition. We need just financing, especially if you look the youth-led movement. When I started my journey in Glasgow with Greta Thunberg, but now Greta is invisible in the climate dialogue. And since 2019, when the global climate stake started, so now youth at the front line of the global environmental movement, and it's so visible. But funding is below 1%. So everyone is saying young should play a role everywhere. SDGs is so 17 goal, no one goal for youth, because all goal for youth. But problem is finance is very limited for the youth-led organization. So without financing, all challenges should be solved by us. It's not fair. So we need meaningful participation in decision-making table with adequate investment. That's my message to global leaders and who are the decision maker. Thank you.
Well, I totally agree what you said about like it's awesome to be here. It's like a huge opportunity, but we don't need be to add the copy for making like lives better. So what matters is the local level as well, and what we do in like daily life. And we can't do anything alone. So build things together, have a partnership, goes to like groups, a collectives, a youth collectives. So this is a good tip that I could take, and I think all of us as well. So build the things together.
Mine is easy. Teamwork is my advice for sure. I mean, my students sometimes ask me like, "I have this amazing idea," and I've told them, "Yes, it's an amazing idea, but it is already happening." I mean, there is a lot of projects with this idea, like 10 years ago, and it's really good. You need to get involved in that movement, in that organization. In my NGO, we have interdiscipline like work, and that was a lesson that I found in the summit. Like we were for all around areas, engineers. I don't know nothing about engineers of food security. I mean, I'm an international relations student, so that's my part, my part, the social part. It's important, but also know and learning, educate ourselves. That's my other advice. Like keep learning all you can.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you guys have shared, especially emphasizing solutions-focused education and giving young people the framework on how to not only identify a problem, but how to solve it, because I feel like that is going to take them from being overwhelmed to feeling empowered. and also coalition building. I don't think sustainability is one pillar. I feel like it needs to be integrated in all industries. And so not making this a charitable, philanthropic effort when actually this is a healthcare problem, this is also an economic problem, a business issue, and really trying to coalition build, because if we only work within climate science, within education, within universities and policy, what happens to all the other sectors that help make the world go around, like supply chain, like technology, like AI. If we're going to be experts on this topic of climate science, climate change, we need to also build meaningful relationships, because when we are hit with these disasters, the first people we should know is our neighbors' names, know our neighbors' strengths, know who we can call, who are our adult and professional allies who can support us. And I feel like knowing that you have a network of people supporting you makes it a lot more exciting to participate long term, because I know a lot of young people, they get excited, they get anxious, they get emotional, and they want to fix everything so fast, when we know that this is not going to be solved in our lifetime. So we need to find a way to build partnerships to pace ourselves and move slowly and coordinatedly, instead of trying to move fast and fix everything right away and change everything overnight.
All right, thank you. One final, you wanted to make a comment, yeah. And we'll wrap up our panel with that.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Fatoumata Aliou Maïga. I'm from Mali. I'm a virtual delegate of Global Youth Climate Summit 2025 in Belo Horizonte. It's a pleasure to be here. When I saw it yesterday, I was excited, and I said I will be attending. So my question is, congratulations for this panel. Is such an instructive panel. I would like to know, realities in countries are not the same. We're from Africa and West Africa, and specifically from the Sahel. And there, it's a part of the world which is really affected by natural catastrophes as drought, floods, and everything that goes with. So it's true to think local and act global, as she mentioned. But what do you think of the head of a youth-led organization in Mali? We've been doing a lot, like on our own. We've been being active, fighting for climate justice and everything that goes with it. But at a certain point of time, you will definitely need money. I mean, finance. It should not be a taboo anymore. We have to speak, we have to say it in the right way. It will come in your action sometime that you will just be fed up of. It's true, what you're doing with passion, but you seeing that you are blocked, you are being blocked, like you are stuck. People don't trust the younger generation. We are not having our voices on international platforms. Even being here, we are from Mali. It was very difficult for us, as people from Mali to make it to here, but we did it, we made it. So we really want to know how to, because it's very difficult to connect with international partners when you are not on the right place. So I would like to know, how could us possibly, without passing through the government and all, as youth-led organization, connect with such people who can maybe help us to get finance and facilitate our job? Because we already doing a lot. We did a lot, and we're still on the process, but we really need that finance. This is, I think, one of the reasons why many people are here. Thank you. I don't know if it's a contribution or a question. Just if you have a comment on it, go ahead. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's a very valid point. And, I hear your concern. It's a very valid concern that young people have. And that is the injustice that many of our speakers have spoken about. I think the way forward also have been shared by our speakers. You have to build relationship, think long term, pace yourself. I have been working in youth development for 17 years. And what I've learned from my own experience is you need to have a long-term perspective and not burn out. Because if you burn out, no one is supporting you, you try for a year, you give up, the world will not change. So you have to look after yourself, maybe think in terms of entrepreneurship, have a business model, how can you generate revenue, think about your value proposition. Even in Mali, there must be ways for creating a business model which is not just dependent on other people writing you a check. That is the problem in the world. So we have to encourage ourselves, find right-minded people, and I think COP is a great platform for you to build relationship. I would encourage both of you to build relationship with all of these delegates and then tackle it together and have a long-term perspective, pace yourself, and don't burn out because the world needs your leadership. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us.